What's up, all of my horror fanatics out there? Welcome back. I'm the Jay Sloan, and I'm back here to do another video for you guys today. Today's date is February 8th, 2019, and I'm back here to do another Movie Madness video for you guys. Today we're going to be watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, with at least one through the remake. I'm probably not going to watch the beginning, or Texas Chainsaw, or Leatherface. Just going to, stick to the first 5 films. And yeah, so we're going to start with the classic Tobe Hooper film from 1974, one of my favorite horror films of all time, and it is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And
can I join?
Sure, I guess. How'd you get here, man?
I can't tell you that.
Okay, so I guess we're going to be watching this together, guys. Stay tuned for some clips of the original film, and stick with us. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching, and let's dive into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay, so before we start, I want to ask you, how do you keep getting in my house like this?
You know, a good magician never tells his secrets, so...
You're my brother, you're my best friend and all, but...
I could just knock.
You could have knocked, yeah, that would have...
I just kind of like surprises. I figured, you might be the same way.
Fuck it, you're here. Let's go ahead and dive into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. What do you think about this franchise before we go into it?
I like it. It's definitely, in my opinion, just being honest, I haven't watched them near as much as Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, so I like those better. But I'm excited to revisit all of them because it's been a while since I've seen some of them. But I really like the second one, and I'll get more into that later.
Yeah, exactly. For me personally, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, at least, I guess I would say 1 through 4, remake included, is one of my personal favorite franchises. Maybe even more so than Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. Maybe. I don't know. There's something about this franchise. It's very disjointed, but it's very, I don't know. It's cohesive at the same time. I'll talk about that later when we get to the end of the Movie Madness and let you guys know what we think about each and in every individual film. And yeah, so let's dive into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We will be back with some clips in just a little bit.
Get her leather.
If there's a character in film that's annoying, in horror, film, in horror cinema, Franklin would fit the description perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know whether to feel sorry for him.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Or
You kind of feel sorry for him, but he just keeps on kind of talking. Poor guy.
Oh, here we go. We're about to meet the hitchhiker. Bill Moseley in TCM2, which we'll talk about in a little bit, definitely did good with Chop Top, but I really love the Hitchhiker too.
Very creepy.
Where you headed, man? South. You work at that place? Oh, no.
How did you get stuck way out here?
I was at the slaughterhouse. I got an uncle that works at the slaughterhouse.
Okay, guys, so we have made it to the infamous dinner table scene. one of the most disturbing scenes in the whole film. It's crazy. I guess one way I could explain it, it's kind of like disgruntled disorientation. Like there's the shots that are going back and forth, as you'll see. Just crazy. Always love this part in the movie. It's kind of like you're watching a snuff film at times, honestly. And you're right there, the brutality and how disturbing it is. It looks like you're right there with these people. Like it's not a film, it's real. You can tell Marilyn Burns is really not acting here. What do you think about it? This view. this viewing, I guess.
I like it a lot better. Especially like the later part, like this scene right here, very chaotic. And yeah, I mean, her acting gets a lot better. I ain't saying she did a bad job, but like right now, she's doing phenomenal. Like I really feel bad for her, especially in this situation.
Oh
I mean, the grandpa literally just sucked her fucking finger.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I think at this point she wasn't really acting.
Right.
Like she, they already done this take. I don't know how many times, and I think she was just really ready to get it over with. I think all of them were like, this was a really brutal, grueling and brutal shoot. So you're just a cook. Gonna cut it right here, guys. You gotta love TCM. You gotta love it. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, one of my personal favorite horror sequels of all time. Definitely in my top 5. I absolutely adore this movie, and I can't wait to talk about it further at the end of the movie Madness. Chris, what do you think about TCM 2?
It's probably one of my favorite horror sequels as well, and I don't want to give away too much because, we're going to talk about it later, but I think it's a fun movie. Definitely completely different from the original. And we'll talk about that more a little bit later.
Exactly. I love this movie for every difference that it has from this and the original. And I really respect Tobe Hooper as a filmmaker for making this film the way that he intended to or the way that he wanted to. This was definitely not the way it was sold to the company who was producing, the company that was going to be putting this film out. They had no idea what they were getting into, but Tobe Hooper knew exactly what he was going to do with it. And I love the dark or the black comedy. I love just about everything about it. We'll talk about it more in this edition. If you are a fan of this film, you need to have the TCM2 Arrow video release. If you can't find this box set, because it is hard to find now, still get the film itself. It's just, Arrow does an amazing job, and this release is one of my personal favorites that they have done. So we're going to dive in and we're going to watch this movie, and you'll see a few clips littered throughout the next few scenes. So yeah. Okay, so we're just now getting introduced to the iconic Chop Top, portrayed brilliantly by Bill Moseley. There's just nothing much to say. I mean, just leave it for the screen to tell you guys.
You're my fave. Me and Bubba, my little brother, we listen to you every night. Music is my life. You're my fave.
Yeah, I love it, man.
It's just great. Ouch.
I do that sometimes.
Yeah, I do that too.
Well, what about Iron Butterfly? It's heavy.
You gotta love it. Just just completely psychopathic, but I mean, really funny. Really, I'm not gonna say likable, but amusing, and then can turn at the drop of a hat, can be really sadistic. We'll see that in a little bit with what he does. Yeah, Bill Moseley definitely did a great job as Chop Top. One of my favorite in horror films, definitely. And I love Caroline Williams' performance right here. You can tell she's really creeped the fuck out by what's happening. You gotta love it. And you gotta love Dennis Hopper as Lefty. Just everything about this movie, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't scream, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, upon first viewing. I can see why, some people when they first watched it was like, what is this? But, you know, expecting it to be a very serious sequel, and it was not that, but that wasn't the intention.
I think it's acquired taste.
Oh yeah,
A lot of
exactly.
people like it, a lot of people dislike it.
I know a lot of people that don't like it.
Yeah, I know more people that don't like it than people that actually like it.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
As I said before, you gotta love Dennis Hopper. I mean, in this movie, he's just, I don't know. If Dennis Hopper was not Lefty in this movie, it wouldn't be the same. TCM2 would not be what it is today. To me, at least. I love just how over the top this fucking performance is. It's great. I guess supposedly he was sober making this movie, and I just don't buy that. I don't buy the sobriety at all, but I don't know. I just love Dennis Hopper's Lefty. What do you think, Chris?
I agree. I like his performance.
We just said, you know, he's got like chainsaw holsters. Where do you even get those at? That's badass. Like a chainsaw holstered on each side. Like a crazy cowboy. Love it. Love this movie, guys. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the third installment in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, and that is Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. What do you think about this one, Chris?
It's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm I can't remember what I thought about the first time. I remember it being all right, so
Yeah.
kind of gonna get a refresher on this one.
Yeah, I like this movie. It's definitely better than The Next Generation, and, you know, Leatherface or the Texas Chainsaw. It's really got it's a different family this time around. Really a different Leatherface. The movie itself, I think, could have been a lot better had it not been chopped to pieces. This was really, really cut really bad. I mean, the final version of the film, the director's version of the film, I don't think we'll ever see. But I enjoy it, and we're going to show some clips as soon as we dive into it. And, yeah. Okay, so we're about midway through Leatherface. Yeah, what do you think about it, this viewing, Chris?
I like it. I think I like the first two better.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
This third's not that bad.
No, it's definitely not bad. Viggo Mortensen right there. He does actually a good job as Tex. It's got a darker tone, whereas 2 went more of the comedic route. I mean, it was a dark comedy, black comedy, whatever you want to call it. But this one, it tries to juggle, I think, a little bit too much at times, and try to keep continuity with films that it's already been out of place with. Like you have Caroline Williams in there for a minute, then you don't have her there. Then you have some callbacks to the original movie, but it's just, you know, like I said, this series is really disjointed in a lot of ways, but I love it. It's definitely a good sequel. It's better than the one we're going to watch next, although I do enjoy that one as well. And we'll try to show a couple more clips of Leatherface and see you guys back here when we watch The Next Generation. Alright, so we've made it to the end of Leatherface, or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3. It's a good horror movie. I enjoy it. There's some funny moments in it, and some really great kills, really great effects. It's definitely not the worst out of the franchise.
How is he alive? He literally just got a chainsaw to the skull.
Yeah. That's what we've been talking about the whole movie. Pretty much from the start. Like how Kim Faree survives.
I can't be too mad because he is awesome. He's a great actor, but
yeah, it was just, I don't know. Very weird.
he just has like a little bit of blood on his ear.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
That guy's badass. That guy's like the greatest. I like when he kisses the decapitated head. Alright guys, we're going to be moving on to The Next Generation next, so just stay tuned. Alright, so now we're going to move on to I mean, I would say probably the best entry in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, and that is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. And yeah,
So that's where me and you are completely, differ in that. I absolutely hate this movie. I think it's garbage. I think everything from top to bottom, even the people involved in the movies, should just feel absolutely ashamed of themselves. And I don't think that after watching this, again, nothing will change my mind. I don't think I'll like it, not even that much. Who knows? We'll give it another try, I guess.
my goodness. I don't even know what to say back to that. I have no rebuttal whatsoever. It's just, I don't know. It's a masterpiece, and there you go. You get to see Matthew there, masterpiece in cinematic history.
Now, what is this music?
This is the music of
Dreams?
amazingness. Look at that. It's just, I'm going to let the movie speak for itself in the clips that we show, because it's just fantastic. The cinematography's great, the editing's great, effects are great.
Garbage.
It's awesome.
Garbage.
It is not garbage! Alright, we're about halfway through this masterpiece.
Okay. Now get down on the floor. Okay, get on the floor.
This whole movie, man. This whole movie is a laugh. Matthew McConaughey's performance makes up for everything. Makes it all worthwhile.
Still not sold on it. Maybe by the end credits, I like it. I think it's I know you said it wasn't garbage. It's garbage.
Yeah.
Chris, your opinion will change. By
He's self-harming himself. What does that do in the situation?
by the end of this film, you will love it.
We'll see.
Shut up, Debbie.
Why don't you shut up your own self?
It's great.
Forget it, hon.
Leatherface in this movie, though, is the weakest out of the first three, easily. Way better than Texas Chainsaw, but still, Leatherface is a bitch in this movie.
Look at him. He's hiding behind the fridge.
Matthew McConaughey's Vilmer makes up for everything.
I'm sorry, sweetie. I got a big mouth. What can I say? Okay, maybe it's included. But maybe it is, so fuck you. And if you try to come here, or if you try to stop me, I'm gonna blow your fucking
Renee Zellweger actually does a pretty good job, too.
Yeah. She's pretty decent, isn't it?
I mean, I hate to be a party pooper, but it's late and I'm tired and the pizzas are getting cold. And nobody
Oh, God.
You can use the electronic.
Oh, shit. We're not morbid for laughing. It's just... Oh, my God. Okay, so we're closing in on the critically acclaimed Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Chris, have your thoughts and opinions kind of changed this viewing, or?
Not many times in my life have I ever watched a movie that I thought was pure shit. And after watching it, I've done a complete 360 on my opinion. This movie, for the longest time, and I include myself, I was a part of this group that hated the movie, thought it was horseshit, pretty much.
Yeah.
But my eyes have been opened. I had like a outer body experience, especially the end when he does the chainsaw. Like, I've never seen that in my life. Like, I'm mind blown. You might want to get off of me. I don't know what to say.
Your favorite out of the franchise?
By far, dude, it's better than the original. The sequel.
Don't cry. It's okay.
I'm not crying, dude. Get away from me.
Okay, so now we're going to watch the final installment in this video's movie madness, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake from 2003. I enjoy it. It's one of the better remakes, especially in the 2000s when remakes were hot and heavy. You know, everybody was making it, everybody was doing it. You had a lot of remakes come out in the 2000s, some good, some bad, mostly bad, but this one was enjoyable. It didn't really compete with the original, but it kind of stood its own ground, and it did something a little bit different. Kind of the same film style or the same vein as the Hills Have Eyes remake, which I also really, really love. Yeah, not better than the original, but I enjoyed this remake. What do you think, Chris?
I agree with pretty much everything you said. I had a fun time with it. I think it's a good movie. It's a good remake. Probably wouldn't say it's better than the original, after watching the original again. But, I like it. It's definitely better than Halloween, the remake for Halloween. Definitely, in my opinion,
sure.
Better than the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. So, yeah, it's up there. It's a pretty good remake, in my opinion.
I agree. So we're going to dive in, and we'll show you guys some clips as we go along. And, yeah, thank you guys so much for staying tuned and for watching throughout this entire The Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie madness. And we'll see you back here in just a little bit. So one of my main issues with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake is that I feel like it goes out of its way to solely be dark. Like, it just feels like it's props. In the original it felt really natural, really fluid, and everything felt, more or less in a lot of ways like a snuff film, like you were there watching it unfold. This, like I said, it's not bad. It's not the worst remake. Definitely not the worst remake, but it just feels like it just goes out of its way to be gritty, and I don't like that. Wish it was just more natural. But, yeah, it's hard to believe this movie's nearly, 17 years old. Which is crazy. I remember when this movie came out in theater. I didn't get to watch it in theater, but I remember when it was released. Yeah, it's, like I said, not the worst remake. What do you think about it, Chris?
I think I agree. In some ways, it does kind of overdo, some of the props,
Yeah.
whereas the original is probably a little bit more subtler with some things. It does kind of make it feel more realistic in the original, kind of felt. In some ways, like it could have really happened,
Exactly.
It could have really happened.
Exactly. And the Hewitt family are not very interesting in this movie.
Yeah.
There's nothing about them that's really, really intriguing. So,
Look at that guy. He was kind of a dick. But
Drayton and Hitchhiker, yeah, it
They
was.
were kind of energetic, but charismatic.
Yeah. Oh well, not the worst remake. One of the, out of remakes, it's probably one of the best.
Oh yeah, one of the better ones for sure.
So, but yeah.
My number 5 is going to be The Next Generation. I know a lot of people don't like this movie. I find enjoyment out of it. I feel like if you're going to look at it as like a Leatherface movie, this is probably the worst one because, Leatherface is pretty weak in this movie. But Matthew McConaughey and some of the other, actors kind of save it. It's kind of a so bad it's good kind of movie, and I have fun with it, so that's why it's number 5. Number 4 is going to be the remake. I like the movie. I think it's a good remake. It's very brutal in some places, but then again, I feel like it's kind of trying too hard. I don't really know how to explain that, but it's definitely dropped down for me. I still think it's a good remake, though. Number 3 is going to be Leatherface. I like this one. There's some stuff to it I don't like, but, you got Ken Foray, you got, a menacing Leatherface. He doesn't take any shit in this movie. That's what I like about him. You kind of get a swamp setting, which is kind of cool. There's some stuff in this that works, some stuff that doesn't. It's a decent little sequel in my opinion. Number 2 would be, TCM2. I really like this film. You got Chop Top, you got, Caroline Williams, The Stretch, you got Lefty. This series has always been a wacky movie, but I've always enjoyed it. A lot of people don't, and that's cool. It's just one of those movies that I really like. I get a kick out of it. Has some good humor in my opinion. And number 1 is going to be the original. I watched this, for the first time. I really liked it. Well, I'll say I liked it. But this second viewing, I really like it, and it's probably my favorite. There's a lot of stuff that I missed the first viewing that I caught this time around, and I really like it. I like how simple it is. It's simple yet effective, and I think it is a classic movie that everybody should check out. So that is my ranking of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series.
Okay, guys, so now on to my ranking of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. And coming in at number 5, a lot of people probably will be scratching their heads on this one. It is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. Although I did enjoy this remake, it's one of the best out of that, early 2000 to mid 2000 remake wave that was going on. Not the best, but one of the best. Like Chris said, it felt like it was trying to be dark, and when a film is literally making me overthink, that's when I'm drawn out of the movie and I'm no longer too interested in it. And I've noticed more flaws with this movie over rewatching it over the years, especially this viewing, that I don't necessarily like. I don't like the Sawyer family ripoff. It's not the Sawyers. Leatherface wasn't very intimidating. More of a Jason-esque type character and not necessarily Leatherface. The kids, there was a couple interesting kids in there, and you did feel a little sorry for some of the deaths and some of the occurrences. I liked R. Lee Ermey's performance. I thought he did a great job. But overall, it was just another remake to me. Okay, guys, moving on to my number 4, and it's also going to shock a lot of people. Most people despise this movie. They put it at the bottom of the list when it comes to this franchise, and it is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. It's not a good movie by any means. I will not try to sugarcoat that and say that it is a masterpiece. It's simply a fun watch because of all of the ridiculous things that happens in it. Cannibals are no longer cannibals. Matthew McConaughey has an electronical leg that has literally a TV remote control. Like, it's just crazy. Renee Zellweger is one of the only believable actresses within the film. The kids are stupid as fuck. Just about all of them are just ridiculously special. I don't know. It's just, they try to recreate some of the scenes from the original, like the hook scene, like some of the same shots, like the chase scene with Renee Zellweger and this weird, I guess you would say, transvestite pussy-ass Leatherface that they have in this movie. I mean, this guy literally is the worst Leatherface, one of the worst Leatherfaces out of the franchise. The only redeeming quality would be Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey. And, yeah, if you've never seen the film, watch it for Matthew McConaughey alone. I mean, you'll either laugh or you will cry because you're laughing so hard. I mean, it's just crazy the amount, and it looks like they actually put a decent amount of work into this movie, and they didn't think it was going to be the joke that it was. They wanted it to revamp the entire franchise, and it did not do that. So yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. It's enjoyable. It's a guilty pleasure of mine, and yeah, it comes in at number 4. Okay, so coming in at my number 3 is Leatherface: The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3. This one really got back to basics, or back to the, I guess you would say, the inner roots that the original carried. It tried to, anyway. It had a similar family. It gave a little bit of an explanation for the original film. Not much of the sequel, although it did have Caroline Williams in it for a brief moment. Who knows why, but it was there. I like the little girl in the movie. I like the family aspect. You really got to see how disturbing this family was. I like some of the effects. I like Kim Free in the film, Viggo Mortensen as Tex. Leatherface, like Chris mentioned, was actually scary in this movie. I feel like they showed shots of him a little bit too much here and there, like, going to attack his prey. I didn't feel like we needed to see some of that exposition, I guess you would say. We knew it was happening. We didn't need to see it every second of the way. But I did like the dialogue. I liked the acting. I liked the scares. And, yeah, a couple problems with it that I won't fully go into, other than Kim Free coming back with a scratch on his head. That was a little bit of an issue. I liked the creepy gas station dude with the peephole and, kissing the headless, or the decapitated head and all that. Like, it's a fun movie. It's very dark. It has a little bit of comedy, but not near as much as the next film that I'm going to talk about. But I do love Leatherface as an entry in the franchise. Alright guys, so moving on to number 2. This one stands very high to the original in my opinion. I absolutely adore this movie, and it is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. I've said so much about this over the years, I'm going to sum this up very briefly and say that this was Tobe Hooper's, I guess his rebuttal to how conception of the first film was taken, and people it being banned in a lot of places, and outcries and outrage over the film, saying it was, disturbing, too hard to view, or it was what it wasn't really. And he wanted to come back and say, okay, I'm gonna make something that has 10 times the gore. I'm going to make something that will make people laugh, like unintentionally or intentionally funny, that a lot of people may not have picked up on back in the day, but it is a black comedy, and it had a great cast, and it was a script that, from what I know, was developed little by little while they were still filming, they were still writing. But it's, I don't know. I don't know if it's Bill Moseley as Chop Top. I don't know if it's Jim Seedow returning as Drayton. I don't know if it's Caroline Williams as Stretch. I don't know. Dennis Hopper is the fucking man in this movie. He has little to no screen time, but for some reason it feels like he owns this movie. I love his character, Lefty. Love it. And like I said, it blends comedy and horror, and it does have some really gruesome effects and crazy kill scenes. And I love the underground layer that they kind of have built up toward the end of the movie. It knows what it wants to be, and although the people funding the movie did not know this is what they were going to get, Tobe Hooper said, fuck that, this is what I'm making, and this is what he did. And it's a sequel that I think has grown a definite cult following over the years, and I absolutely love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, and yeah, lick my plate, you dog dick. And coming in at my number 1, I know it's, no surprise, it is the original, the 1974 classic, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The grit in this movie, it's not staged, it isn't fake, it's absolutely real. The torturous shoot shows through each of the actors' faces, and a lot of moments in this film, it really feels like you are there, and you're in the seat with Marilyn Burns watching this crazy cannibalistic family who is torturing you and plans to kill you and eat you. Like, it feels like a snuff film. The Hitchhiker is right on par with Chop Top. I absolutely love the Hitchhiker. Like I said, Jim Seedow as Drayton really brought the whole movie together in this clan-like feeling. It didn't focus too much on the teenagers, but what it does, or when it does, it gives you a little bit of sympathy for characters like Franklin, because I think Paul Partain played him really well. You sympathize with him on one hand, and you want to punch him in the face on the other hand. He is so aggravating, but so sympathetic too. Being in the wheelchair, being vulnerable, and you get the sense that he really wants to bond with his sister, but everybody kind of brushes him off. Meeting the Hitchhiker, and brushes his theories off and his fear of the Hitchhiker finding them. But I love the family. The best part about this movie is the Sawyer family. I love Leatherface. Gunnar Hansen is the best Leatherface. I love the confusion when the kids are, coming in the house and he doesn't know where they're coming from. He's not killing them out of joy. He's killing them out of fear. He's like a spider or a snake, or any kind of animal that fears you more than you fear them. And that's what I love about this movie. Yeah, everything about this movie, from the opening to the close of the movie. And I want to say too, Marilyn Burns, very underrated scream queen. I think what she did in this movie, and the things that she had to put up with, and the heat, and everything involved, by the end of the movie it looked like she really had lost her mind. And she is definitely one of my favorite scream queens, and I absolutely love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I want to thank everyone for watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Movie Madness. It was a blast to film and to get to watch the franchise from the original to the remake. Really glad to have Chris aboard as well. It's always good when we're doing a movie madness. And being big horror fans and brothers, that's one of the only franchises we had never really seen together to be able to, critique the good, the bad, and the ugly of the franchise. But yeah, absolutely love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. As I said earlier, one of my favorite horror franchises, maybe even more so than Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. It's got its flaws, but it's a really sturdy franchise in my opinion. So stay tuned, guys. There'll be more Movie Madnesses coming up soon. A lot more unboxings and updates here shortly. So thank you so much for watching. I'm the Jay Sloan, and as always, guys, keep it horror. Peace.